Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're finally able to talk about the brand new OPPO Find N. This is a foldable device from OPPO, the first foldable device OPPO released. Last year we had the rollable, that was more of a concept. This one's actually available for sales. So the Find N provides us a new experience, and I feel like it learned a lot from what the Find N, the Z Fold 3 as well as the Duo 2 provide us when it comes to foldable and multitasking devices. This one actually does it right. Let's talk about what OPPO's doing and how this could change the landscape of foldables in the future. This is TK. Let's talk about the brand new OPPO Find N. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so they are always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. Now, the one thing that I really appreciate about the packaging that we get in here is that everything that we need is included. The charger, the 33-watt charger, the USB-A to USB-C cable is also provided. And not only that, the device itself actually looks and set up pretty nicely. There is a screen protector that's present on the outside display. This is the 5.5-inch 1080p display on the front. It is a 60 Hz display. When we open it up, it opens up to a 7.1-inch display. It runs at 120 Hz with adaptive variable refresh rates depending on what you're using. The launcher is the ColorOS 12 launcher. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this is ColorOS 12 running on Android 11, not Android 12, the same way we've seen it, let's say, on devices like this one with the Find X3 Pro. This is going to be coming up as a later update. Again, this device was intended for the Chinese market, and ColorOS 12 came out in the Chinese market ahead of international markets, as we typically see it on most of our devices. The inside display also has a screen protector. You can kind of see like the nice little edges there. I do not recommend removing any of those. There's a few models, but the main thing is they're running the Snapdragon 888. That's going to be the main processor on any of the devices that are like this for the Find N. The other thing that they also have here is two variants, an 8256 and a 512 for the actual RAM and storage capability. And the storage is also, of course, a UFS 3.1. The battery that we have in here is a 4,500 milliampere charged with a 33-watt charger in the box. And we're also able to have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, so definitely very nice. Over 50% in about 30 minutes or about 45% in 20, which is really, really nice. And of course, we have dual speakers present on the bottom, dual SIM support on the bottom as well on the bottom, one other microphone, a USB-C connector on the bottom. The fingerprint sensor and the power button are both in the same button. Very fast and very responsive. Let's go ahead and do that. And of course, a volume rocker present next to it. At the top, one of the other microphones. On the outside, we have a triple camera stack, a 50, a 13 telephoto, and a 16 ultra wide. And then we also have a 32 megapixel on the outside selfie camera and another one present here, as we have two selfie cameras. That's one of the main benefits. But we're also able to use the main cameras here with flex mode to be actually able to use them as the selfie camera and get some of the best images on this device. Now, the last thing I do want to mention here is also comes in three different colors. This one is the purple color. There's a black and a white one. You probably have seen some of those on the internet. And something to also keep in mind, the aspect ratio for the 5.5-inch display here is an 18:9, so close to a 16:9 experience. And when we open it up here, it comes up to an 8.4:9 aspect ratio. And both of them have Gorilla Glass viscous supporting them. And so that's one of the main protection options. Also, again, 120 Hz to a 60 Hz panel on the front. Now that we've covered the specifications and we know pretty much everything that makes this the way it is, the actual device itself is, again, as a foldable display means it actually folds and unfolds, basically bends the display on the inside. And this is the bigger display, the higher refresh rate display that works much better for us. Now, we're able to use the fingerprint sensor. As you see, it's pretty fast. One thing to keep in mind is that it actually has a very minimalistic crease. I mean, you can kind of see it right there. You see when I'm bending it, you can actually barely see it on the side, which is actually less pronounced than what we've seen with the Z Fold 3 or even the Z Flip 3. Both of them apply mechanisms to provide us the best option to be able to fold and unfold the device. This one actually provides us the least amount of actual presence when you're using it. And this is much easier to forget, and you can kind of see it. Like when I'm folding it or unfolding it in this mode, you'll notice that it actually doesn't actually show at all. And when I go slightly sideways, you can barely even see it here with the crease that's present there. So that's one of the new options that they have here with the Flexion hinge that they're built in, which provides us the ability of actually folding the actual phone entirely flat. So this actually does not have a gap on the inside, so no chance of things kind of coming in. And of course, we also have the nice little moniker here designed to find. Again, this is the Find N, a new series from OPPO when it comes down to foldables. So one of the things I really like about this phone is the form factor. It's something that you probably will appreciate more as you have it in your hand, but this is bigger than the Z Flip, which usually basically goes about this high, and of course smaller than the Z Fold, which is actually even higher as a phone because it's intended to be much longer. And because of that, it gives us actually a slightly wider display. This is an 18:9 aspect ratio, not exactly 16:9, which is what we typically get from most smartphones. And of course, this is the brand new, well, this is the Find X3 Pro running ColorOS 12 on Android 12. The main thing here is an 18:9 aspect ratio, and when we open up the inside display, that takes us up to 7.1 inches. Again, this is protected with the Gorilla Glass Viscous, but the big difference here is that this is running an 8.4:9 aspect ratio, more of a squarish frame. It's still technically wider than it is longer, so when we go in another format, it kind of looks a little bit off. But the biggest difference here that we have is the fact that it actually fits much nicer when we're trying to run, because it actually gives us a little bit better options for multitasking. So here, I'm running 2 applications, but you'll notice how the aspect ratio for those 2 apps, it actually runs as if it's 1 app at a time. And that's one of the main benefits here. So let's go ahead and we'll go back here. We're gonna cancel that. But the benefit here, again, it runs 2 separate apps simultaneously. Now, you are able to run single apps individually by themselves, and we can actually open them up in either orientation, or close the display, takes us straight to the front, and it automatically gives me the ability of jumping back into it, or again, jumping back into the app in the full view that I want to go in there. If, let's say, I want to be able to run this a little bit more functional, I can go ahead and jump in a pop-up window, and now this app actually runs in a more of a shrunk window vision. Kind of like how we have video apps like Netflix and YouTube when they're playing video. The benefit here, though, is I can actually interact with it, bring up the menu, I can make it bigger or make it smaller, and even though if I wanted to say close it, I can actually just close it up, open up here, click the X, and that's pretty much one of the multitasking options. Now, one of the really cool things you'll notice is this app is running in its native format. Obviously, it does not stretch, and it actually plays directly in here, so you're able to move it right or left. Or if you want to be able to do something really funny, run it as a separate app on the left and keep the phone UI element on the right. I'm actually still having all of my phone here again, and the app still runs on the left. This is a very functional way of doing things, which again, on the Z Fold doesn't work that way because of the form factor and the aspect ratio. Last but not least, again, the single-handed functionality here is very nice, that I'm actually able to not only swipe here, I'm able to come back, bring that down, use it as a full app, bring it down, access everything, and it works just the way you want it. And this is one of the reasons why I feel like this device is the right size for folding, because this is the right aspect ratio. This reminds me so much from what we get here with the Surface Duo. The Surface Duo is essentially giving us that similar experience. Let's go ahead and unlock the phone. And what it does essentially for us, very much the same thing. I say I can open up, let's say, the Messages app. I can flick that from one side to the other. That one doesn't happen there, but I can also make it into a full screen app. And I can, of course, just swipe it away, do everything I want, and then just go back home. Everything works the same. But if I want to run 2 apps at the same time, I'm actually able to run them side by side in their native aspect ratio. And that's something that the Z Fold doesn't really do that well. And I feel like this is why this one with the Find N provides us somewhat of a combination between what we get with the Duo 2 here and the Z Fold 3. Now, as far as customizations, as you can imagine, this is running ColorOS 12 on Android 11. Hopefully, we'll be able to see Android 12 running on this very soon. It did come preloaded with the Google Play Store, so if you're wondering if I'm able to download and install my favorite Google applications, I'm able to install the voice assistant, regular assistant, Google for searches, everything like I want. It's not natively supported in here, but if you install a secondary launcher, that pretty much solves this, the problem, and you can run your shortcuts and everything will run the way you expect them. Now, there's a lot of apps that are made intentionally to work very well with the Fold or the folding functionality, and we'll get into that in a second. Opening up the notification panel, pretty much standard experience here. Wi-Fi, mobile data, Bluetooth, flashlight, my devices, media share, power saving mode, vibration, screenshot. We of course have a screen recording, and you probably noticed this at this point, that we actually have something called the PC Connect. This is something new that came, well, will be coming with Android 12, ColorOS 12 on most OPPO devices, but at least here on the Find N, it is actually supported and is running part of the UI. And as I'm showing you guys right now, the experience here is very straightforward. You connect this over Wi-Fi to your PC when you install the downloaded app, and then from there you're able to actually control your phone as if you're using the phone on your PC. Transferring files, opening applications, responding to messages, everything that you can do from your PC will work just the same. The other thing that, of course, we still have here, the ability of just jumping in, again, screen recording, do not disturb, OPPO share, screencasting, NFC is supported in here, screen sharing, of course, and of course, wireless reverse charging. Now, jumping into the settings tab is pretty straightforward. We have all of the customizations on the left. It is formatted to work with our dual display or the folding display. If I fold the phone and I use it basically as a small format, just swipe up again, we're back into this menu. We have access to Wi-Fi, mobile network, connecting and sharing. Personalization is where we were. We get a chance to customize not only the wallpaper, have a very custom always on display. Let's go ahead and give that a second to turn on. And this pattern that you're seeing here is something that I designed myself. And we're able to basically customize it, not only just on the sense of what it looks like, but also the colors that we get in there. We have preloaded system provided color OS, basically, always on displays, and of course other ones that you can purchase directly from them. Theme wise, you can go in there and customize your theme either by looking into what you have, loading it. This is the material design that we have in here. Icons can also be changed. You can install custom icons. It does come preloaded with material standard as well as the pebble option. I did switch over to material. That's probably what you've seen before. Quick settings here, you can change the customizations from the circle, all the different options that you've seen. Again, a lot of options we've seen in the past. Now here is the color customizations that we saw. We noticed that we have the green here, but on the always on display we had other options. I can customize it, or I can just use whichever one the system allows me to use. Hopefully with ColorOS 12 on Android 12, we'll be able to use that theme engine that came on the Find X3 Pro. Edge lighting, pretty straightforward. You can customize the color on your edge lighting and it basically works the way you expect. Home screen and lock screen, pretty straightforward. You can change the aspect ratio on your home screen or on the lock screen and the home screen. The mode that I'm using it right now does not include an app drawer. This is why it's not present. But if you did have that, you'll be able to customize that as well. Sound and vibration, pretty straightforward. We do have Dolby Atmos support in here, so you're able to customize it. It is on by default, and it is specifically turned on to smart. So by default, it is one of those options. Environmental profile or specific scenario profiles, and you're able to turn them on. The light for Dolby Atmos does turn on when you have headsets plugged in. Now, notifications and status bar, you're able to customize it, adding the percentage on the battery if you want to do that. Reply floating window, turn those options as well, and media playback control from external sources. Last but not least, we have, of course, power security, permissions, privacy. This is where you set up your fingerprint sensor, as well as all the other options to pin. Battery, again, 4500 milliampere. We're able to turn on power saver mode. We also still have the ability of turning on performance mode, which means the 888 is not running at full bore here, so you definitely want to turn this on if you want to be able to do something a little bit more, I would say, demanding than what your normal usage is. But for the most part, I would keep this on off. No real reason to keep it on for any reason, unless you really need the extra horsepower. Optimized battery use, sleep standard optimization. This works great for overnight. Last but not least, you can see the usage. And again, all of these options are straight under the battery options. Under the apps, pretty straightforward. You can customize your default apps, and I did go in there and change a couple of options. So an example here for photos right there, I'm just going to change that to be Google Photos, or I can just keep it as the normal gallery app. I did change the browser straight to Chrome once I installed that. You're able to change that as well. If you want to download a little bit more Google straight apps, you can definitely do that. Auto launch, again, some of those automatic launches that we have in here. Last but not least, associated launch, display over other apps. This is for certain apps for permissions. App management, default apps, as we talked about it. App cloner, very easy. If you have applications that support multiple profiles, like Instagram, for an example, or Facebook, you can turn them on here and you'll have 2 instances for each app. Recover uninstalled system apps. These are something that in case for some reason something gets uninstalled unintentionally, basically. Now the last 2 things here are very, very special and very unique to the Find N. The main screen gives us options to a few different options here that are very unique. So split screen, this is something that enables us to actually run by swiping our finger down and enabling us to actually put the app from one side to the other. An example would be here. If this app supported it and I was in the split mode, this would work. But all you have to do basically is open up the app. So I'll go ahead and open up the notification panel. Or actually open it up to the bigger display. So if I do this from the top, it's going to tell me that setting does not support split screen. But as I showed you guys before, if I do this here, it shifts it automatically to the left side as I have it. We go home and then go back into the settings tab. Under that main screen, we have other options here like flexible window. This is the secondary option where we're able to launch apps straight from here. So if I go ahead and open it up, it opens it up into floating mode. Now I'm able to make it a full screen, but if I wanted to keep it, let's say a floating option, I can basically open it up here. I can jumping in, throw it into the left, again, runs the exact same experience. Laptop mode works really nicely. Unfortunately, only specific apps require that right now. And right now, the only app seems to be working is Yoku. And it seems like this is one of the Chinese apps only. Like, I'm not sure if this is their Chinese YouTube app, but for the most part, it seems like it's a social media app and it works in that mode where it enables us to use laptop or desktop mode, enabling the screen to split forward, and it gives us more of a mouse pad at the bottom. The easy way to show you guys what it looks like, if I open it up here, I'm going to just bring down the volume. It is down. We'll bring up a little song. And you can see those are the gestures that we get in there. We have the up and down side and pinch and zoom. So if I bring it down, somewhat of an experience here. Now I have a little bit of a mouse pad. Again, bring it in, and then of course bring up, bring down, all the different options in here. and it works again in desktop mode. So this is what they're referring to when it comes down to desktop mode. The app itself is pre-installed on the Find N, and if you like using it, that works perfectly. Driving mode also requires specific cars that are supporting driving mode. Screen switching, this is very nice, and you're able to basically customize how the screens switch from the inside display to the outside. By default, it has this little function where it does that blue little option. It's basically asking me is, do you want to continue? If I want to continue, I swipe up. If I don't, then it just shuts off the display and the device goes to sleep. I can actually have it turn off, which is this is basically where you close it, it turns off. Or you have just normal continuing, meaning I can go into the main screen, look at that, and then of course when I close it, it just jumps automatically without asking for permission. I like to actually keep it in the middle because sometimes I don't necessarily want to use the external display. If I ignore it, it just goes to sleep. Last but not least is display size. And this is going to be something that you want to be aware of. As we saw when we were looking at here, an example would be here, the Play Store. If I open up the Play Store and I'm looking at it here in the full mode, it opens it up in standard mode, meaning I can shift it to the left or I can shift it to the right, and it does pretty much the same. Big difference is we have that big gap that's sitting here. But what if we want to be able to basically change that aspect ratio? And in the settings here, we jump into the Google Play Store and we're just running at full screen. So I'm going to say change. It does mention that it is going to crash the app and open it up again. So I'll go ahead and open it up one more time. And now the Google Play Store opens up in stretch mode. So you can do this with whichever app you want to be able to use it. So this is very customizable. The big thing that I would probably say is Instagram. So Instagram out of the box came out to be a 4:3 aspect ratio. And it was cutting up some of my pictures when I was going into Instagram. So I'll go ahead and do this one. We'll go ahead and say change. And if we jump into Instagram real quick, so here, Instagram, we'll give it a second to load. It still does the formatting correctly, but what it did essentially is it cut off the picture. So this is not truly the way the picture is supposed to look like. So we'll go back in here. We're going to change it to 16:9, change. I'll let the app crash, go home, and we'll get into the gaming in a second. And we'll open it up here. You'll notice the format is much thinner. It's more of a 16:9 aspect ratio. And now it actually shows me the picture as it's intended. So a big difference here, big benefit. And again, if you want to be able to do it by app, just customize it straight in under the main screen. You jump into display size. Again, we can obviously make it into a stretch mode. So that'll be the last one. Let's go ahead and say full screen. We'll say change. We'll go home. Last but not least, this would be Instagram if I wanted to basically shift it to be more of a full screen experience. And of course, the pictures look a lot bigger. And again, this may be the format that you're more comfortable with. For me, I like to keep it at 16:9. Now, under special features, we have quick return bubble. This is supported by specific apps. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the apps installed on my phone. So most of them right now seem to be more Chinese apps. Smart slider, that's that little option that we have on the side. That's the side menu here that we're able to customize. We have a dedicated kit space in case you want to hand this over to your kids. Sleep mode, and of course, you're able to turn it on and set a schedule for it. All of those options are very nice. Under system settings, pretty straightforward. You can customize it under about. We can see here, model number is PEUMOO version 12 of ColorOS 12, running on top of Android 11. And this one also supports the ability of adding additional RAM from storage to the system. So even though my system runs 12 gigs of RAM, I can actually get all the way up to 7 extra, and that gives us 19 gigs of RAM if we need it. Currently, I don't really think I need it, but other than that, if you need to check your cert, if there are any updates, and just for reference, I did receive one update since I've had the phone. And that pretty much is the simple way. I am updated running on the latest edition. So we've talked about all of the customizations. We've talked about all of the options that we can do to make this device even more unique. Let's talk about flex mode. Some of the options that we have in here to be able to enjoy this device, and the fact that it actually folds. So the fact that it folds, it makes it very easy for me to put the device down on a table and actually just position it so that we can actually just have our articulating experience. What I really like about it though is the ability of actually having it shift from the top to bottom. And let's say I go sideways, it actually shifts and becomes more, let's go ahead and do it one more time. It becomes a preview of what the pictures are on the left side. So here I'm able to basically swipe between the pictures and videos that I've taken. If I go sideways, it actually just converts it into more of all the controls are on the bottom and the viewfinder is at the top. I can actually do that exact same situation. But what if we want to use the best cameras on the phone for selfies? Very easy. I'll go ahead and click this option here. It says preview is also available on the cover screen. So that means the cover screen now shows me the preview from the camera. But let's say I want to be able to control the camera from here. That additional button that we have at the top right here turns off the main display and gives me full functionality of this camera with this. So now I'm able to actually shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second, some of the best capabilities with the ultra wide as well as the telephoto lens that doesn't have any matching capabilities here. The primary shooter is a 50 megapixel here as opposed to a 32 and a 32. So for best video, this is literally the best solution. We hold the phone the way we want to hold it, and we're able to actually take photos, videos, any kind of mode that we were able to use before, straight up in here. And let's say I want to use the ultra wide, I'm able to jump in, and you can definitely see picture looks really nice. And then of course, if we want to jump back in, we could just unlock the device, and it takes us back into the standard UI. We have camera, photo, video, night mode, of course, a lot of different options in here. And of course, under more, Brino Scan, that's the built-in assistant, text scanner, time-lapse, dual view video, expert mode, pano, movie, and slow-mo. And specifically with let's say, hyperlapse option, my son and I were doing this little experiment to try to do this little latest trend on TikTok called helicopter. I don't know if you've ever seen it. So let's go ahead and jump into all, and I think this was the longest one. You can definitely see here. we were practicing the different options for that, and my son was doing that. So hopefully that'll be coming to a TikTok account very, very, very soon. The display is absolutely fantastic. The colors on this are great. You can definitely see the petals. You can actually just see exactly how the flower is. And one of the first pictures I took on this, which I was actually trying to shoot, was the ability of shooting some of those leaves that just had fell down because of the rain earlier. And of course, here's a quick selfie with my son and I while we were driving the car, running at Dragon Ball all the way, beanies and nice jacket. It is cold in Southern California. But let's go ahead and jump into a quick sample of video on the brand new OPPO Find N. Well, this is one of those nice little functions that you have here where it's a dual view. I'm able to use the main sensors on the back of the phone and of course on the front-facing camera. We can actually position the actual frame, like the pop-up in the front. So you can actually have it as a split or actually a small window like the way I have it right now. It's pretty decent, and I think it's a nice little function. Again, the portability I guess the hand holding of the Find N is one of the best features of this device. It fits so nicely. It's not too tall, it's not too short, it's just the right format. Now we're going to take a front-facing video, or actually a video with the back or the main sensors on this device. One of the functional things is the ability of actually seeing ourselves, since we have a front-facing display. So what a better way than to, as opposed to using some of the lower megapixel cameras where 1080p is going to be the maximum, we can shoot at 4K 60 frames per second recording front-facing selfie video with the best cameras on this phone. Again, very nice. Some of the things that we benefit when we have a foldable is the fact that we have the external display as a viewfinder. Very, very cool. As you saw there, dual video as well as using the primary sensor in that open express mode helps us use the best cameras on this phone to take videos. You should always have the opportunity to use the best cameras to create content, and in this situation it just works right. Now we're going to do a quick audio sample on the brand new Find N. We have two stereo speakers, bottom firing on the right and on the left. So when we're holding the tablet, it's going to be firing down. Of course, if I hold it sideways, it's going to do the same experience. We're going to be playing the same song we usually like to play. It's Jumbo by Alex Scrindo. It's an NCL release here off of YouTube. Now, out of the box, by default, it does open up into tablet mode if you're using it on the internal display. Of course, we can go full screen and that plays. You'll notice there is a little bit of letterboxing, and YouTube, even with pinch and zoom, unfortunately doesn't work here. But if we switch it over to the other format, it actually seems to be a little bit better when we use it on the external display. But either way, let's go ahead and play this. We have the song ready at the drop. We have the volume all the way 100%.
Jack it up.
And as you saw, transitioning from the inside to the outside did not interrupt the music, did not do any stutters. Everything was working beautifully. And had I ignored that little message at the beginning, obviously the audio would have stopped unless I had background playback turned on, and that requires a subscription. So for me, this works absolutely fantastic. The speakers, as you heard, definitely sound very good with Dolby Atmos, and of course, a lot of functional things there. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about, obviously, is gaming. There is a game center that's built into this. By default, this is the Chinese game center, so they were able to see some of the games available in the Chinese market. But since we have the Google Play Store, I was able to install PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, as well as Asphalt 9. And the gaming experience actually is a little bit different on each game, and I'm going to share with you guys real quick some samples, and we'll go ahead and do a recap at the end.
Hostile Predator missile inbound. Hunter killer drone on standby. UAV online.
I got supplies.
Now, as you see there, the gaming experience is a little bit different than some of the other options that we've seen. Some games work perfectly in full screen. PUBG Mobile did have any problem with this. It actually loved being in that aspect ratio. Where we went to Call of Duty Mobile, we actually were playing in 16:9, and you had the ability of customizing either having it in the center, which I actually preferred it to be more closer to my hands, which gives me the ability of playing it like a regular phone. And if I wanted to, I can switch over, of course, to the external display, which I feel like mimics most smartphones on the market right now very, very closely. And that's where Asphalt 9 felt the most comfortable to play. It was having a little bit problems playing on the inside display, but again, the main benefit here is the fact that we're able to play with this in multiple form factors, external display or internal display. A lot of options, or a lot of the things I'm mentioning when it comes to the gaming experience, can be fixed with an update from the developers as time goes on. My hope is that we bring enough attention and enough interest in this device that hopefully maybe OPPO considers looking into maybe bringing a form factor, either a version of this or something else that is foldable to the international market. Now, currently this one's only available in China, and I want to say thank you very much to OPPO for allowing me to check out the Find N, and of course sharing with you guys my opinions. There's going to be another video coming up specifically comparing the Find N and the Duo 2, as I feel like these are a little bit more of akin when it comes down to comparisons. The Z Fold 3 is obviously it's the biggest it's the biggest foldable in the market, but I don't really feel like that's the right form factor. If you've ever used a Duo or Duo 2 even, you know that the right form factor is more of a tablet style. So when it opens up, it actually mimics the tablet experience, because that's how tablets are, that's how Android is intended to work in its most optimal experience. And the Find N actually matches that by giving us the ability of running two apps in their native form factor, so kind of like a 16:9 aspect ratio running on both apps. And I felt like that worked much better for us than what we see with the Fold, because you're still looking at two really thin, long versions of their apps. Or if you're running it on the external display, you're also running a very thin device. So that experience doesn't really mimic what most of us are coming from, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio device. So at the end of the day, what do I think of the Find N? I think it's a great start. I think what OPPO's done here is they've learned from everybody else's approach to foldables. Again, the Flip and the Fold, Xiaomi's approach to the larger version. I know Honor's also coming up with another version of their foldable that's going to be more on the larger side. Huawei's using the clamshell. But I felt like all of these devices are either going too small for me. I did a video on the Z Flip. I think the Z Flip is an amazing phone, but it's just not the right phone for me. It's just too small of a phone. And then of course the Z Fold, I've had to go with the Z Fold for the most part because I've had no other options. I've always wanted something somewhere in between the two form factors. And the Find N does that exactly right. The right form factor for foldables in smaller or extended display. Again, this is supposed to give us the ability of enjoying more content, better content on a bigger display. And if it's not formatted correctly, like running two separate applications consistently at the same time with the right aspect ratio, it makes a little bit of an adjustment, and some people may not like that. And I feel like OPPO's doing it right here. The right form factor for foldables, and hopefully more companies will start following suit. I'm hoping again that we'll see an international model of this at some point in the future. Currently, it's only available in China. There is a link in the description below if you'd like to import it. I will say this much, it doesn't catch 5G in the US, but I was able to get 4G here on T-Mobile in the LA area. And my speeds actually were pretty comparable, about 60 down and about 24 up. Well, depending on where you are, you're going to get slightly different experiences. The main benefit though, it's that you're able to use this device and enjoy foldable technology without necessarily having a massive phone. This fits the right format because it's bigger than the Flip, which makes it too small. It's more of a clamshell. And this actually does more than with a standard phone, because the Flip at its best, when it's unfolded, it's the size of a standard phone. The Z Fold, it's too big because it's the format that we're getting there is just, again, Samsung's format. More companies are copying it, but not many companies are trying to change that and make it more functional like what OPPO's doing with the Find N. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much to OPPO for allowing me to check out the Find N. Let me know in the comments below what would you like me to focus on here with the brand new OPPO Find N. Again, the video comparison between this and the Duo 2 should be coming up very soon, as I have some time here and borrowing this one from my buddy Juan Carlos, and I'll be able to give you guys a little bit more opinions, of course, about what I like about the what I really like about the Duo 2, and of course what I really like about the Find N. This is TK. I'll see you in the next video.